people of the internet. All right. So let's get into this next video, folks. Of course, it comes from Tim Cast IRL. Shout out to Tim Pool and his team. It looks like the topic of discussion is regarding, of course, politics. As you guys know, I don't really like speaking too much about politics. I'm not the most well-versed person when it comes to politics. When I do choose to speak on politics, it is definitely surface level. I'm not gonna, act as if I'm the most well-versed person. So I always give that disclaimer when I'm choosing to speak on anything that has to do with politics. And of course, if you're familiar with this channel, you know how I already feel about politics. I always compare it to WWE wrestling, reality TV. It's all like the same to me. You got everything that's happening in the politics, everything you see on like reality TV, those reality TV shows, just throw them all in the same bucket. According to me, that's just my opinion. Nonetheless, shout out to them. They're speaking about, it looks like Joe Biden recently came out somewhere on the stage somewhere, shared his opinion on something. The good folks over at Timcast titled the video, Joe Biden says he's worried about political violence despite his own dangerous rhetoric. Right? Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this video and get some of the context behind this matter.
For the first time in his presidency, Joe Biden made a spontaneous appearance in the White House press briefing room today.
The actual one?
Yes, the actual one. We're not sure if he wandered in there on purpose or by mistake, but there's this report from Politico that he was there for about 15 minutes and journalists audibly gasped when he entered, which is not a great sign. But I'm going to pull this from NPR. He talked about a couple different things. I think it's pretty notable that he said he's worried about, Biden says he's worried about violence around the presidential election. President Joe Biden told reporters on Friday he is confident that the election will be free and fair, but he said he was concerned about potential for violence if former President Donald Trump refuses to accept the will of the voters. Quote, I am confident it will be free and fair. I don't know whether it will be peaceful, Biden said during a surprise appearance at the White House daily briefing. The things that Trump has said and the things that he has said last time out when he didn't like the outcomes of the election were dangerous. And this story has two components, right? Obviously, there were very serious threats to President Trump. And I'll go back to something former First Lady Melania Trump said, which is that everyone who contributes to political violence by saying things like we need to, do horrible things to keep this man out of office, he's a threat to democracy, contribute to this. And so in some ways, Joe Biden is now back in the DNC camp by saying these things. On the other hand, this guy just showed up for the first time. Is he trying to legacy build?
Let's pause right there real quick, folks. Shout out to the good folks over at Timcast IRL. Of course, you see it there. The video is titled, Joe Biden says he's worried about political violence despite his own dangerous rhetoric. Of course, to my understanding, Biden has officially stepped down. I think Kamala's, as you heard the gentleman say, or at least it seems the way that Kamala has now stepped up while she's also campaigning to be president herself in this upcoming election versus Donald Trump. I want to just focus on the notion that people are worried, or Joe Biden himself. Joe Biden is quoting himself saying that he's worried about political violence in the event that Donald Trump wins the election. Now, to be completely honest, folks, this is something that I kind of think about a lot. I've been saying this for some time, well before, even when we were all under the impression that the election was going to be between Donald Trump and President Biden, I thought that things are going to get shaky come this election. I don't feel any different now that we know that it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. And to be completely honest, I think chaos will ensue, right? Whether Trump wins is going to be a problem. Whether Kamala wins is going to be a problem, in my personal opinion. Why? Let's start with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wins, of course, and again, folks, I have no allegiance to any of these people. Let me say that. I'm not left. I'm not right. I don't vote. I don't participate. As you heard, I said in the beginning of this video, I think all of it is all phooey to me anyway. But from the outside looking in my personal opinion, when we saw President Donald Trump, in his first run as a president, Donald Trump, some people argued that he is, of course, we know Trump, right? He says what he wants to say, whether it's politically correct. He may at times offend certain demographics, certain collectives of people. Sometimes it looks like he doesn't think before he speaks, this, that, and the other. lo and behold, it seems like that same notion is what's gaining his favor now. There were a lot of Americans, of course, that did feel that way and felt that a lot of the things that he said was counterproductive. People are blaming him for the things that took place on January 7th, things of that nature, because of the rhetoric and the things that he speaks on. Cool. And you wouldn't be wrong in assuming so, because there were at times where I did agree that the things that Trump was saying did seem like it emboldened, right? That's the word that they used. It emboldened people who were from a certain, political belief, whatever the case is, to act upon their own if things didn't go in their favor. So Trump was like the spokesperson for things, for people to be counter, anti, I guess you could say, for people to really speak with their chest. I feel like people look to Trump as that person who can, hey man, I like a guy who can say how he feels, he keeps it real, at least he doesn't BS you. I want to do that too. And then you got a collective of people that are, more willing to take matters into their own hands when they see that, Trump is, somewhat backing them in their corner, right? So people feel like if Trump runs it back, if Trump is president again, he's only going to continue what he started before, which was, of course, he himself given like this carefree, I don't really care, this is how it's going to go, build the wall, this, that, and the other. Like, people kind of like that. And I feel like people outside of that scope as well, too, would feel like they could embolden themselves to make such judgments. Of course, like, hey man, we're gonna take matters into our own. Hands. We're also going to, do this to this type of people or that type of people, this, that, and the other. So that I would agree could be dangerous. So that's danger on one side. Again, we're saying, Joe Biden says he's worried about political violence despite his own rhetoric, right? So political violence, I think, will ensue if Trump does win, because, of course, people think that he's just going to continue where he left off in terms of just empowering people who don't wish well for other demographics of people in our society. Cool. On the flip side, I think there will be violence if Kamala Harris does win. Again, I showed no allegiance to either side. If Kamala Harris does win presidency, I do think it'll be a problem, because simply to be, call me foolish, but simply off of just her demographic. She's an African-American woman, or I guess she's a minority woman. She's a minority and she's a double minority, right? She's a woman. Of course, this will be history. History will be made in us seeing that, for the first time ever, there's a woman of color or a woman of, minority descent that's not, Caucasian, in the White House seat, and we've never seen that before. Some people believe that's a good thing. Some people believe that's a bad thing. To be completely honest, I don't care. I don't know why we've gone so long, and I might get some backlash for this, but honestly, I don't really care about your race or your gender. I think women in some sectors are just fine being, leaders in certain sectors, in corporate spaces, in households, because I feel like it all comes down to character, right? It's character. It's your mindset. I think that's what makes a good leader. It has nothing to do with your race. It has nothing to do with your gender. That's just how I think. But I think there's a collective of people out there that don't see it that way, that they refuse to see a woman of color in the White House seat as president running our country, because for some reason, some people feel like women are incompetent. So to backtrack, do I agree with Joe Biden where he says he's worried about political violence? I would agree. I too am worried about political violence, regardless of who wins. If Trump wins, there's going to be a collective of people that are not happy with that verdict. If Kamala Harris wins, I think there's going to be a collective of people that are not happy with that verdict. The times that we're living in now is very shaky, folks. I feel like there's a lot of things that are happening in our world right now that raise alarms, and it leaves just people feeling uncertain, myself included. I feel uncertain about the stability of our society based off of just the rhetoric that I'm seeing on our mainstream media, the propaganda, a lot of things that are happening in our mainstream media and just, amongst our society, just amongst us as civilians, doesn't make me feel like we have that much longevity in terms of however the cards may fall with this new election. What can we do to counteract this, right? Solutions, right? Because, of course, I'm all for solutions. But, of course, we are aware of the problem. Some of you might agree as well, too. Some of you watching this might agree that, political violence will erupt if this election goes either way. So how do we counteract that? What's the solution? In my personal opinion, I think what we can start doing, and which I think our society, from where I'm sitting, of course, it just looks like we're straying further and further away from it. I think we can do a better job of giving people a chance to respectfully voice their opinions and create more spaces that people can feel safe and heard and like, all right, cool. Let you say your piece, but I still respect you at the end of the day. The problem is with a lot of people, because you disagree with somebody, you disrespect them. You wish harm on them. You want them, want evil things to happen to them. There's some people that don't like certain people because of their race. There's some people that don't like you just because you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. There's some people that don't like you because you support Trump, you support Kamala. And because of that, it doesn't stop there. They take it a step further and feel like they got to do something about it because of who you support and how you look and how you speak and this, that, and the other. That's what's going to set us back. The solution we got to do, folks, again, we got to think more logical as opposed to emotional. There's a lot of emotional rhetoric. I feel like some people say things out of emotion, and I used to be guilty of this. I'm not going to lie. There was a period of time where I was an emotional thinker and I wasn't a logical thinker. Putting emotions to the side, if a lot of us can learn how to put our emotions to the side and think logically, then we can have more spaces where we feel safe and we don't feel threatened by our personal opinions and our views of the world. But to be completely honest, and whether it might be design, that's a whole nother topic as well too, but maybe it's by design. Maybe, again, the fear mongering, the propaganda that we're seeing in our mainstream media, right? Maybe a lot of the time I think it is meant to keep us apart. A society that's divided is more easier to control. Of course, you guys are well aware of that, man. History has proven that a society that's divided, a society that's up in arms and can't seem to agree on anything peacefully, is a society that is gonna, be divided and is going to have to result in them finding a solution. And by them, I mean the people up, the higher ups. Like, all right, too much chaos is erupting, so we have to see to it that we implement this new law or this new restriction, yada, yada, yada. So I think that we should find a solution where we can start figuring out these things ourselves amongst us as just civilians before we leave it to other powers or other entities to figure it out for us, is basically what I'm saying. But not to ramble, I guess essentially, in a nutshell, again, folks, I agree with this video. I agree. Shout out to the folks over at Timcast, Tim Pool, and all of them over there. I do personally agree with Biden in assuming that there will be some level of chaos regardless of whoever wins this political campaign. If Trump wins, I see a world where things can get hectic. If Kamala wins, I do see a world where things can get hectic. Trump allegedly has already had 2 attempts on his life, allegedly. And if that's the rhetoric, or if that's the message they're trying to put out there, that's saying, oh, well, we don't want Trump in office this bad, we're willing to try to get him out of here, then yeah. If Trump loses, or if he wins, how do we know that we haven't seen the last of the attempts on his life? If Kamala wins, how do we know that we won't see any attempts on her life? God forbid, right? So I think, yeah, man, this is why I keep saying, man, we got to stay sharp out here. Fourth quarter, I've been saying it, we got to stay sharp out here. Things are going to start getting dicey these next few weeks, these next few months. The remainder of this year, moving into next year, 2025, things are going to get dicey. So we all just need to be a little bit aware. We all need to see to it that, we got plans in place amongst our colleagues, our friends, our family. The world just doesn't look, I don't feel as confident in the longevity of our society if we continue at the rate at which we are continuing on right now. That's just my thoughts. But those are my thoughts, folks. And of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. Do you agree with President Biden? Are you worried that political violence will erupt regardless if Trump wins or Kamala wins? What do you feel? Do you vote? Are you looking forward to casting your vote next month? Love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Of course, as always, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you on the next one.